The following is a Spirit Street production.
Big 12 didn't have a ton of exciting games this weekend, but they did have a few. And the one thing that I know for a fact, the one conference game that we had, basically the first real conference game of the season, if it's going to end up like this and all the games are going to be like that, the Big 12 is in for a whale of a season. This is the Big 12 Insiders.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. It's your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, and welcome to Big 12 Insiders Recap Show, going over exactly what we saw this weekend inside the Big 12 as far as football is concerned. Like I mentioned, not a ton of great games. There were a few, but the one conference game, the actual real conference game, I know a couple of teams have already played against each other, but they're considered non-conference games based on previous year's scheduling. TCU, UCF, we'll get to that here in a moment, but if all the games are going to be like that this year, I mean, my goodness, are we going to have a hell of a conference? That's all I'll say. But let's get into this. As a quick reminder, remember to like, follow, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and definitely leave those comments. We absolutely love your all support, and I love the back and forth. We are on our way to 2,500 subscribers, so we appreciate all the support that you guys have given us. So, first game of the weekend was on Thursday. Arizona State went to Texas State. And look, there's not a lot of people either in the Big 12 or a lot of people around the country that know a ton about Texas State. They have a good football program. A lot of people had chosen them to be the group of five, team that's going to represent the group of five, I should say, in the college football playoff. Arizona State goes down 21-7, fights back to tie it at the half. Both defenses start to get it in gear in the second half. Arizona State makes enough plays to win the game at the end. Look, this is a good road victory. Coming off of a short week, coming off an emotional game against Mississippi State the week before. The game was late, and then they go on the road on a Thursday night, hostile crowd against a good football team. Look, I'm not trying to paint Texas State as the greatest team in the country or anything like that. But it's a good football team, and this is a good win. Arizona State wins it 31-28. Great victory for Arizona State heading into conference. Look, they're going to face some teams that are going to be better than Texas State, obviously, but they're 3-0. And outside of Arizona State fans, I'm going to bet you couldn't have there's not a handful of people around the country that thought Arizona State would be 3-0 at this point in the season. Good for the Sun Devils. Moving on, Kansas State physically whips Arizona. I'm not sure what Arizona fans are upset about. They keep talking about the refs. You can talk about the refs, but you got physically manhandled in this football game. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Kansas State coming off of a week where they played bad, and that's the thing. They played bad against Tulane. They did not play bad against Arizona. I saw it coming. It's one of those things, Kansas State, they have a bad game one week, and the next week, if you get them at home, you're going to be in for a whale of a time to try to stop them. Arizona could not do that. Kansas State physically dominates the Wildcats 31-7. Avery Johnson, I don't know if it was a coming out party. I think they opened up the offense somewhat. They didn't open it up a ton, but they did open it up somewhat, which they needed to do. They didn't allow Arizona to run the football at all. They got a couple of runs early, and that was it. After that first drive, Arizona literally couldn't do much. They couldn't do much. K-State just shut them down completely. Next up, look, I'm off the train. I got to be off the train. Kansas, you lose to UNLV 23-20 in a game where UNLV has the ball and just goes down the field a 9-minute drive to end the game, and you can't stop them. And look, you can say that the bright spot of Kansas's team this year has been their defense, and that is 100% the truth. But I'm not going to put this on their defense. Jalen Daniels, Lord have mercy, is he bad right now. He is playing awful football. But you know what? I'm not even going to put it all on him. What is going on with the offensive core? What is going on with the play calling? Kansas is running the ball at will. They're able to do what they want on the ground. And instead of continuing to do that, they have decided, well, we've got Jalen Daniels. We got to throw the ball. No, you don't. You don't have to do that. Just run the football. Devin Neal was getting what he wanted. The offensive line was opening up enough holes. You could have done that and won this football game, but instead, you put it in your struggling quarterback's hand. And again, yes, he's struggling. He's playing not bad football, awful football. Call it what it is. But don't blame him if you are running the ball successfully and you stop. You just don't run it enough. Devin Neal had 20 carries, should have had 35. Period. End of story. Just a bad look for Kansas. Now you're 1-2, going on the road to West Virginia. We'll get to West Virginia here in a minute. But Lord have mercy. I just don't understand it. But I'm off the train. I was all over the Kansas bandwagon. Yeah, I'm off. I've jumped off. And I can jump back on, but you're going to have to slow down for me. I'm a big dude. You got to slow down for me to jump back on. But man, was that. And don't get me wrong, UNLV is a good football team. They're a good football team. A lot of people said that they were, again, just like Texas State, one of the teams that was picked to possibly be the group of 5 representative in the college football playoff. But KU's better than them, or they're supposed to be. Let me just say that. They were supposed to be. Bad loss for KU. Bad loss. Utah, moving on. Utah over Utah State. I'll just say this. Isaac Wilson, he was fine. But the thing that I'll take out of this, Utah wins the game 38-21. They're better than Utah State. Utah State's not any good. Utah needs Cam Rising. I'll say that. If Utah's going to win this conference and they're going to be in the college football playoff and be who we think they are, it has to be Cam Rising. I'll just say that, and we'll end it at that. I understand that football is a team sport, but football also has they have leaders on their team. This man is the unquestioned leader. He's the best quarterback that they have, one of the best ones in the country. If he's not there, they're not the same. So they need him to be healthy. We'll see if he comes back this week. Huge game this week. So we'll see if he comes back. Moving on. Oklahoma State, 45-10 over Tulsa. Look, they have decided, teams that are playing Oklahoma State have decided you're not going to run the football. We are not going to let Ollie Gordon or anybody do anything running the football. We're going to take that away from you because Ollie Gordon, again, couldn't get on track. But Alan Bowman sure did. 5 touchdowns, 396 yards passing. He was the question mark that everybody questioned to begin the season. Is he going to be the quarterback to be able to do it? And so far, he has stepped up to that and said, yes, I am. You guys can question me all you want and say that I'm not this, I'm not that, yada, yada, yada. You're going to take the run away. We're going to make you throw. You're going to make me throw the ball. Alan Bowman has said, yes, I will throw the football. And yes, I will complete the passes. So far during this season, it's been a winning formula. They're going to step up in competition a little bit, and when that happens this weekend, we're going to find out, exactly what's going on. So, like I said, but you can't take anything away from them. That was a good win. Number one, I love that they go and play the game at Tulsa. Tulsa plays good high school football. It's not that far away from Stillwater. I love that they took that game and went to Tulsa to play the game. So, next up, we got Cincinnati beating Miami of Ohio. Look, Miami of Ohio is not very good. I know this is a big, old rivalry. A lot of Cincinnati fans don't like that it's, that it's considered a big rivalry. But what did they play? Like 120 years or something like that? I mean, that if you're playing that long, it's got to be some sort of a rivalry. I get what you're saying, that it's a no-win situation for you. If you win, you're supposed to win. If you lose, it's a horrible loss. I get all of that. But you needed to win. I know that. And you looked okay. I mean, like I said, Miami of Ohio is not very good, but you needed this win. So good for the University of Cincinnati to get me off your back. I'm not sure that's going to help you in the power rankings tomorrow, but we'll see. We will see. But good win for them, 27-16. Texas Tech has finally decided that the season has started. After 2 weeks of just sleepwalking, and especially last week going to Pullman, Washington, and just absolutely not even competing in that football game, they enter the chat. They scored 21 points here in the second quarter in a minute and completely blow. But they have 55 at the half. I mean, just blow the doors completely off North Texas. Good for them, 66-21. And be honest with you, 66-21, the game wasn't that close. It wasn't that close. This was an absolute blowout. I'm glad to see Texas Tech bounce back. This is what you should have done the first week, okay? I'm not saying you should have done that to Washington State. Washington State just went to Washington and won, but you didn't even compete last week. This is kind of the Texas Tech that I am used to seeing. Conference play gets started this week. I'll be interested to see. I might be back with Texas Tech in the power rankings. Who knows? Who knows? I may be back on the Texas Tech bandwagon. Again, 1 week, North Texas, not that good. We'll see. But good win for the Red Raiders. Oh, Lord. Pittsburgh, 38. West Virginia, 34. Look, you know me. I will always admit when I am wrong, and I was wrong about KU, and I've been wrong about West Virginia. I was on both of their bandwagons. If I jumped off the train of KU, I sprinted and did a triple jump off the train of West Virginia. This is literally the definition on how you lose a football game. I mean, I just don't understand how this happens. You've got the game in hand. 4 minutes to go. You're up 10. You can't hold that lead. Come on. And again, it's not that, okay, Pitts went down, they scored, West Virginia turned the ball over. Oh, no. Let's look at it here. What happened? West Virginia goes 75 yards in a minute 49 seconds. They score, touchdown. Kickoff. West Virginia didn't commit a turnover. They didn't fumble, like in their own territory and create a short field. That didn't happen. So then Pitt gets the ball back, and they go 77 yards in a minute 27 to go win the football game. Unbelievable. I don't know. Maybe the schedule last year for West Virginia had a lot to do with how their record ended up. Maybe it did. All I know is that was despicable. That's a football game you have to win. You have to win. I know West Virginia fans aren't happy. I know that. I got several messages talking about how they were not happy with what's going on. You better get it together, Neil Brown. You better get this thing together, because this is the type of loss, literally, that can see I know I've used a lot of train references today, but literally the train can just be off the track and that's it. It's just a catastrophe. Or better yet, you see the train wreck coming and you just can't turn away. You better get this back. And it starts this week. This week with Kansas. You have got to win this football game. You got to win this football game. So, moving on. Baylor against Air Force. I mean, Baylor's a better team. Backup quarterback did come in. Sawyer not come in. He started the game. Daquan Finn was out. Sawyer Robertson throws for 248. I'm still not sure about Baylor yet. I'm still not sure. We saw him last week at Utah get physically whipped in the first half of that game. And if Cam Rising stays in it, it probably gets worse. And we saw that. Then we just saw a deflated Utah, who's not the same team without Rising at quarterback. Baylor kind of made a little bit of a game of it. But we'll see. So I'm not sure what to think. I think we'll find out a little bit more this weekend about what Baylor can do. Colorado goes on the road, beats Colorado State. Look, I don't think Colorado State's any good. Matter of fact, I know they're not very good. If they get to 4 or 5 wins this year, I'll be surprised. And quite frankly, Jay Norvell, with all his bravado and all the stuff that he says, if they don't get to 6 wins, I think if they don't make a bowl game, they're going to move on from him. He just brings a lot of negative attention to Colorado State that doesn't need to be there. But that's fine. Maybe they like that. I don't think so. Bottom line is Colorado played a little bit more of a physical football game. That's the thing. They ran the football, which, again, if you just try to run it, maybe you can have some success. Now, maybe that's because Colorado State's not very good. I totally understand. But at least they attempted to run the football, and they had some success. Should they have stayed with it a little bit more? Yeah, I think they should have. I mean, throwing the ball 49 times against Colorado State, especially at the end of the game, I'm like, just run the football, man. Run the clock out. What are you doing? But either way, they get a win. They got after the quarterback a little bit. They only had 2 sacks, but that's 2 more than what I think they had all season. So they haven't gotten after the quarterback very much at all. It's an okay win for Colorado. It's an okay win. Like I said, I'm not going to go berserk, but 28-9 on the road, Colorado State. It was a hostile environment if you paid attention to the game at all. I wasn't really watching that one. There was another game on that was a lot better than this one that we're about to get to, but good win for Colorado. Best game of the day. Best in all of college football. Best game of the day, UCF at TCU. This was the first official Big 12 football game of the season because, the other games technically were not Big 12 games because of scheduling issues that they couldn't change. But this was the first Big 12 game of the season. And I said it at the outset, if all the Big 12 games are going to be like this, then we're in for a hell of a year in the Big 12, man. Absolutely incredible football game. UCF wins 35-34. They come back from being 28-7 down. Look, TCU was throwing the ball all over the field. Josh Hoover throws for 402 yards. But look, people, I'm sorry. Football changes and your offensive philosophies can change from time to time, but it still comes down to, can you run the football? And can you stop the run? TCU, you're up 28-7. Run the football. They couldn't do it and didn't do it. UCF does. UCF, not only did they run for 289 yards, they also threw the ball for 230 yards. So there was a drive where they're trying to come back, and people are like, why isn't UCF? It was right before the half. I'm like, why aren't they throwing the ball? Hey, they can run it. And if you're getting 8, 7, 11, 12, 5, 9, if those are what you're doing running the football every play, why throw it? That's what UCF did. They were able to cut the lead before the half. I mean, and they end up catching up. Again, they get down 28-7 in the third quarter, and they kept running the football. They threw it some, don't get me wrong, but their identity is going to be running the football. They didn't go away from it. They were able to catch up. And then sooner or later, TCU, if you could just run the football, you win the game. You could have salted away enough time to win the game. You couldn't do that. Great job by UCF. Heartbreaker for TCU. Heartbreaker. You had the game won. I don't care. You're up 28-7. You got that football game won. Okay? You're a Power 4 program. You should, at home, playing well, should be able to win that football game, and you couldn't. Heartbreak City. But UCF, maybe a little bit better than what people anticipated. Maybe a little bit better than what, again, the pass defense is going to have to come around a little bit. But I think people thought that the defense of UCF was going to be their problem, even though they're tackling a little bit better this year. But we'll see. Good win, though. Either way, big win. Houston, look, they're playing Rice. They look better. Donovan Smith's got to be better. 12 for 21 is still not good, but they ran the ball effectively. They're a better football team than Rice. I don't think we learned a whole lot out of this. I think we learned more last week out of them beating or competing with OU and having the ball with an opportunity to win the game at the end of the game. We learned more about Houston last week than what we did this week. The only difference is they got to win, and it was 33-7, and I don't even know if the game was that close. Rice scored at the end. Good win for Houston. They needed a win. And then BYU goes on the road and physically dominates Wyoming. Wyoming's not any good. Let's not kid ourselves about any of that. Can Laramie be a tough place to play? Yes, it can. But it's a tough place to play when Wyoming is halfway decent. They're not halfway decent. but you can't take away what BYU did. They physically whipped them. Just wouldn't allow Wyoming to run the football at all. Would they run for 77 yards for the whole game? That was the one thing that BYU had talked about all offseason, is that getting into the Big 12, we didn't realize what the physicality would be. We'd heard some things. We didn't know what it was going to be until we actually got in it. Well, they got in it and they got physically whipped. Well, they've decided we're not going to get physically whipped anymore, at least by the teams that they've played so far this season. That's kind of been their style. Better quarterback by Ratzlaff. Again, if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, I apologize. Sue me. But he bounced back, had a better game than what he did against SMU. SMU, they're okay. But again, good game this week. Throws for 291. Big game next week. I tell you that. K-State comes to town. Big game for BYU next week. It's at night. I imagine that Lavelle Edwards Stadium is going to be rocking. Cannot wait to get into that game and dissect what we're going to see. So we'll find out a lot more about BYU next week than what we knew about them this week. Because, like I said, Wyoming's not that good of a football team. But again, good win, 34-14 on the road. So that wraps it up for the recap show. Look, like I said, not a ton of exciting games. There's some disappointments, though, this week. There's no question. Kansas, disappointing. West Virginia, disappointing. TCU's not disappointing, just heartbroken. That's Heartbreak City. Got to be able to finish that game off at home. And we found out some stuff. Look, Kansas State might be better than what you think. Tulane, obviously, is a pretty good team because they had Oklahoma on the ropes. So maybe the game that K-State played against Tulane's not that bad after all. Utah, got to have Cam Rising. I'll say that. Arizona State, may they be better? They're definitely better than what people thought. There's no question about that. They're the surprise team of the Big 12 so far. They've got some good wins under their belt. Conference play is a different animal, and we'll find out this week. But, they're 3-0. Outside of Arizona State fans, like I mentioned, there's probably not a handful of people in this country that thought they'd be 3-0 at this point in the season. The one thing that I do know is that the Big 12 has represented itself well. This is a hell of a season that's coming up. I cannot wait for all this to get started. Mostly conference games next week. We have some teams on a bye. Iowa State and TCU are the two teams that are playing out of conference. Other than that, we got conference games. I can't wait for it all to get started, people. The Big 12 is here. They're representing itself. It's going to be fun. Wait to check out the power rankings tomorrow and the rest of the week. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, all those things Big 12 Insiders related. Leave those comments, people. I love the back and forth. I appreciate you guys. I will talk to you soon.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.